I got another note. Pretty strange, right? Do a video explaining the Ansoff matrix, the Ansoff matrix. I don't really get it.
Guys, honestly, I had it of making videos now.
Do it! Just do it!
Yo everyone, welcome back to another business video. It's been a little while, I know, but this time it's going to be in a pretty small topic again, a really small topic, not very broad. It's another tool for organizations. Today I'm going to discuss the Ansoff matrix, and guys, let's get to it in a bit. It's not very complex to understand. Once you know it, it's just a layout which helps you understand tools in an organization. One must just simply understand, for example, what a matrix is. You might have heard of something like this in mathematics. Of course, it has several definitions, but keep in mind, so in this case, we kind of are using the mathematical one. So let me read out the definition. So a matrix is a rectangular array of quantities or expressions in rows or columns that is treated as a single entity. Businesses want to make profits. They want to grow. So basically, it's a model to show, the risk associated with growing a business, with the growing strategies of any market, the market development or the product development. So when it comes to developing, the business you'll usually decide upon making new products or developing a new market, or they can do both. So that's what I'm going to explain in this video. Begin with the Ansoff matrix is originated from this guy's name. Apparently he was an American-Russian mathematician, and I don't know much about his history, so don't ask me for information about him, but that's not important right now. So this guy popularized the idea that long-term business success was dependent upon strategies and planning. So anytime you want to have a business successful in the long term, as I mentioned in the last two videos, I think it is significant that you come up with strategies and continuous planning to ensure the business stays successful. Like, for example, you want to increase the profit margins. There's many ways, there's many strategies, and I gave that example 2 videos back. Strategic marketing decisions are typically consisting of 2 variables. To begin with, when it comes to forming an Ansoff matrix, you must keep in mind the market in which the firm is going to operate, and at the same time the products. Remember, the products and the market, and marketing is related to that, although it's another chapter, it's more complicated. I can explain that later. But guys, marketing is basically like where you're selling it, and the products is of course what you're selling. So of course that's pretty self-explanatory. So now, before I show you the Ansoff matrix, which actually illustrates this clearly, you must remember that in terms of the market, the managers have 2 options. Either the managers will remain in the existing market, or they will enter new markets. Or in terms of the products, they will sell existing products or come up with new ones. They'll develop new products, and that's the innovation. So of course, I did mention this many times. So it's either way, whether they may move the products to new markets or they move existing products to same markets. So guys, I'll come to that. Guys, what I mentioned is basically all the facts put together in a matrix. A small matrix, and I didn't define what a matrix is. So these options can be presented. There are 2 options for each market and each product. So the products is like the columns and the markets is like the rows. Let's think of it that way. So the matrix is showing different, like existing products, existing markets, and so on. You guys get it by looking at this actually. There are 2 options, each for markets and each for products. This gives a total of 4 distinct strategies, and businesses can use either one of the strategies when they plan to increase sales. The main strategy which applies to, of course, as I mentioned actually in the last sentence, I'm just clarifying it, is increasing the sales, and they can increase the sales in any way. When it comes to existing products in existing markets, it's known as market penetration. So basically what all they're doing is they're selling more of the existing products into existing markets. Now, existing products, new markets, that's market development. So basically that's, of course, as I mentioned, all the products which exist, they're moving it into new markets. They're selling it in new places. That's how I would say it. And new products and existing markets. That's product development. So they're developing the products, but just keeping it in the same markets. And diversification is the strongest one, where they're selling new products in new markets too. Guys, we can recap that. Market penetration is the most simple form of strategy, while diversification is the most complex. So market penetration isn't actually simple. Of course, it does have an impact on business strategies and the final result, especially of sales at the end. But let me give an example. Nothing is clear without examples.
So, of course, many of you've heard of the company Samsung, the Samsung electronics company. They sell TVs, they sell phones, they have various types of devices. But in 2013, Samsung reduced the prices of 4K TVs up to 200 euros. And this was in response to other manufacturers cutting prices. But Samsung's reductions were larger. They wanted to increase the market share, so hence they reduced them. Guys, let's come to the examples of product development. And of course, as you go towards newer products or markets, it's more risky. I mean, regardless. So product development, let's recap. It's where new products are sold in existing markets. And one example of that could be Diet Pepsi. Diet Pepsi, of course, is part of the Pepsi company. So it's like a new product, no calorie carbonated soft drink. Here, this is how it looks like. This is its logo. It's the same market, I think, in Pepsi, but it's completely new. So basically, Diet Pepsi took on an existing product. I think it's Pepsi itself. And it became slightly different, and it was sold in the same soft drinks market. So in the same soft drinks market, I think, run by Pepsi, where it's already available, that's where it was sold. It's just a different variant. Okay, now market development, of course, is existing products in new markets. So for example, you could export goods to overseas markets, like any product which exists, any type of product, whether it's a Dell laptop or whatever. It can be delivered overseas or to the same country but in a different market. And basically, they can use the existing business computer systems and sell them in other markets. Finally, of course, last but not least, the most risky option, which could actually have long-term benefits if you're lucky. Diversification, it's completely diversified. The products and the markets, and trust me, the process is actually challenging while the concept might be simple. And guys, all those I mentioned are marketing strategies. I can come to a full video explaining marketing later. But meanwhile, I hope you guys understand this. Just a business, different ways of increasing their sales and performing their strategies and making their products sell the best possible. It's up to the business what you want to achieve. And guys, another thing though, of course, I didn't mention the high risks. And many companies who have attempted to diversify have actually failed, let me tell you. It is really easy to quite simple to fail from the diversification. And there are a few examples of companies who have successfully diversified. For example, Apple, who originally sold PCs, I think, have now started selling mobile devices. Virgin Group moved from music production to travel and mobile phones. Walt Disney moved from producing animated movies that actually came up and started creating theme parks and vacation properties. And Canon, you guys heard of Canon, I guess? Canon it's a Japanese company, headquartered in Tokyo, of course. Before, I think it was an optical company. Before, they used to sell cameras. That's what they were well known for, cameras, camcorders. But now they started getting really into selling more office equipment, even printers. I'm not sure about that in detail, but from what I know, they started getting into more complex office equipment from selling cameras. So basically, they've changed themselves completely. They kind of did that. And oh yeah, of course, as we know, it's a public company. You can even invest in it if you want to. And of course, this is the stock price currently in Japanese yens, I guess. Before you do any diversification, you need to keep in mind the challenges in both the markets and the products. And of course, I'm sorry I keep repeating about the riskiness. It is clear enough. It can be a really strong strategy, but it's only an option, I think, if the high risk is balanced out by the chance of high profit. So before you engage in any type of marketing strategy, you need to think of the long-term consequences. Will it have a positive impact on your business? Will it expand? You need to think through it, plan logically, think of the possible trends, think of, will customers be attracted by this? So guys, it's a long planning process. And if you start your business, that's why these are the types of risks you have to keep in mind. There are only very few companies who have successfully diversified themselves. And only if you're really confident that if I diversify, if I start selling new products, if I start moving them into different markets, will my business sell more? Will my company sell more and make the most profits? Finally, I want to show you this. I just want to explain this briefly. While you understand the main sectors of the Ansoff matrix, you can plan it out in a more efficient way. And when it comes to making your strategies and writing down each plan accordingly and concisely, you'll know which one to pick. From targeting new markets and new areas, of course, these are the plans. So of course, you have to apply to your business. So just a vague example. So like this is, for example, an example of a plan of market penetration, same market and more same products, of course, simplest. So these are the type of things you can which can help you start off. And then analyzing them, you'll kind of make up your mind which is the best marketing strategy and which one will help maximize your profits to the best. And after you write that down, you should start thinking of the risk factors. Which one seems more complex? Which one seems more efficient? Which one seems more risky? And then I think the best way is to rate all of them all together and decide which one is the riskiest and which one's the best option. Like, judge which one's better. Like, the most efficient should also exceed the risk factor. You don't want to do something really risky and which could risk the whole business's operation. And of course, finally, after you do that, after you have a discussion with your managers, owners, or whoever you're running the business with, it's time to make a decision and work towards it. Guys, now finally, evaluation time. So basically, Ansoff matrix, of course, represents the risk of different methods when it comes to marketing strategies to help develop a business further. However, it does not really direct a business towards one particular future strategy. Like, it doesn't, unlike many other diagrams, I think, which can be used, it doesn't actually guide towards one strategy. So identifying the different ways, like whether you're changing the markets or the products, and you're thinking through the different methods in the different strategic areas. And this can actually be more efficient for managers. They can analyze the several different methods and decide which one is the most ideal in each category and which one's the best to make the business expand. And this can be more useful when they can analyze the different values of risk associated with each method. And of course, the managers and owners can apply the decision-making techniques regardless of what they choose to do and which method to pick. They will assess the cost, the gains and risk associated with each option. They'll have to think critically about the future direction of the business if they go through that one method, one strategic method. How much will it cost? How risky is it? How much will it give me in the future? And the thing is, in large businesses nowadays, because the world is so competitive, many people are trying to do the best they can, many people are trying to access the world's resources. So businesses will try to adopt multiple strategies. One strategy may not be enough, that will think of different strategies, and maybe some might do many strategies at once. That is difficult, yes, to follow many at once, but in today's world, it might be possible. The only limitations, though, besides the fact that it does map the strategic options, but the limitations, for example, are, it only considers two factors of the business's options. And guys, think back to my last video. I did a video on the SWOT analysis. So the SWOT analysis is just a way to, represent the internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats which could affect the future direction of a business. So you can kind of think through that. Think through how people will note that down and decide what actions to take. So this is kind of like an extension where people are actually planning the method. Guys, knowing this in the background can actually give you a bigger picture. Remember, whenever you hear anything in business, you don't forget about it later. You remember it, and remember, many things in business link, so you have to remember and note down what you learn. This can give you the bigger picture. So the Ansoff matrix can actually lack the entire depth of it, and it may have hard environmental evidence. So it can also be difficult to manage judgment from the experience of the risks. It's just one an analytical tool when it comes to deciding what choice to make. Although you won't get the full picture of it, you won't try it out. Like, market development may seem to be the best option if you just look at it. That's another thing. If you look at it, it may seem the best, but which market country and which existing products by the business? So that you have to kind of think more. You have to do more research, more thinking. And remember, any tool in business is not perfect. It has its purpose and it does have limitations, but if you want to deal with the limitations, you can use different tools or, of course, find your ways. Guys, finally, all I have to say is thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys at least get the big picture of this. And guys, once you have the understanding, you'll be able to apply it in your own business or whenever you read any news of business. So guys, now it's time to apply your understanding into unfamiliar situations, into unfamiliar case studies. And guys, if you're running a business, this is more practical, hence more difficult. You have to think through this more logically. So yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Peace.